Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of the Conflict Counselor. Wow, we're moving right along here. I'm your host, attorney mediator Chris Capocia. In each episode, we detail specific strategies on how to navigate conflict, distilled from the hundreds of court cases I mediate every year. This show is called For Contractors: How to Avoid Disputes with Customers. Remember, last time we discussed how customers can avoid disputes with contractors. In this episode, we'll turn it around and talk about some of the same pointers, but from the contractor's perspective. So, here we go with 6 critical tips for contractors. Number 1, provide a detailed quote for the job in writing. Now you want to be very specific about the work to be performed, the price, timetable, etc. Common disputes in my court involve, for example, whether the contractor or the customer should purchase materials, appliances, etc. Why the discrepancy between the quoted price and the actual billing, or between the quoted start and completion times and the actual start and completion times? What is the status of the deposit? Is it refundable? Under what circumstances? And on and on. Bottom line is this: you can avoid or mitigate these types of disputes with a clear writing. And please consider this: if you're serious about your business and in it for the long term, have an attorney draft a form contract specifically suited to your line of work. It will pay for itself many times over by alleviating the very issues we're discussing. Point number 2, confirm the changes to the contract in writing. As you know, customers frequently change their minds in terms of materials, scope of project, etc. Don't rely on your memory or verbal amendments. Get everything in writing. It may be a bit time consuming, but not as much as spending a half day in court. By the way, text messages for confirmation are better than nothing, but they are difficult for a judge or mediator to wade through for the facts if something goes wrong. Collect a fair deposit up front. Point number 3. A complaint that I often hear from contractors in court is that they will expend considerable time quoting and prepping for a job only to have the customer cancel and or go elsewhere. A fair deposit, the terms of which are clearly communicated in writing, is at least some protection in this scenario. In a recent case, contractor ordered an expensive custom-made entry door for a customer, who ultimately decided on a different door from another supplier. Although the custom-made door could not be returned, the case settled because the contractor had collected a sufficient deposit from the customer. And now the 4th critical step for contractors in dealing with customers. Keep the customer informed of the job status. Use phone calls, texts, and photos to share progress and updates with the customer. Customers need to feel like they are involved in the project. And really, when you think about it, it's a sign of your respect for your customer, which will not be forgotten. And keeping the customer informed simply makes sense as a way to prevent or mitigate mistakes. Critical tip number 5 addresses this communication with the customer more broadly. Number 5, maintain an open line of communication at all times with the customer. Many contractors get into trouble and end up in my court when communication breaks down. When there is no communication, key decisions are either not made or made by one party only. Not a good thing. As we discussed in the last episode, life happens. Folks get sick, go on vacation, have family issues, whatever. And that's when communication suffers or stops entirely. I'm being a bit facetious now, but whatever happens short of your death, it's critical that communication with your customer is maintained. Finally, our last critical tip for contractors on how to avoid disputes with customers. Number 6, conduct a final inspection of the project with the customer. Surprisingly, this is not often done by contractors, but it's a relatively easy way to prevent disputes. If you're good at what you do, any mistakes uncovered by an inspection are likely fixable without too much additional work. And here's an important note. Acknowledge and fix honest mistakes. If you don't, they could come back at you in the form of a lawsuit. If you do the right thing in this way, you'll impress your customer and preserve the relationship for repeat business and referrals. An incident comes to mind where an inspection revealed that a painting contractor had left a small crease in a customer's metal roof. The contractor acknowledged the damage and offered to cover the repair. The customer was appreciative, but declined because the repair would have involved removal of a large roof panel and simply wasn't worth the time and expense. Clearly, for that painting contractor, honesty was indeed the best policy. And to wrap up tip number 6, after the final inspection and the customer is satisfied, get an acceptance from the customer in writing. Your proof of a job well done. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Conflict Counselor. As always, let me know what you think about the podcast and about life in general. Next time, we'll discuss why it makes dollars and cents, that is SENSE, to settle a conflict. See you then.